Good morning and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines. Today is Wednesday, May 20, and we get together every morning here live at 10:30 in the morning to talk about the latest news from around the world, news that have to do with our lives here in Puerto Vallarta. We also get together to connect with one another, to share good news, important news, ideas, thoughts, comments, suggestions on how to stay creative, how to stay positive, and how to stay smiling through these trying times. If you are new to these broadcasts, my name is Paco, and you can find us here every morning at 10:30. And if you're watching later on in the day, you can find that the broadcasts have show notes attached to them. These show notes are all the links of all the news that we share. Some of those are in English, some of those are in Spanish. We include the ones in Spanish just so that you know that we are doing our best to share news that come from credible sources. This is something that is really important to us here. So, if you're watching live right now, it's great to see you. Your comments are always welcome. Particularly if you're new, feel free to write the word "new" in your comments so that we can give you a proper welcome. And if you're watching the stream later on, either on Facebook or on YouTube, you will find the stream along with the show notes, which I prepare just as every broadcast is over. I'm going to start by giving a quick shout out to everybody that's joining this morning. Good morning, Claude, Ellen, Sue, Colleen, Craig, Catherine, Cheryl, Janice, Paul. It's always good to see you here. Gail, good morning. Good morning, Russell. Gail, it's great to see you. I'm working on your crockpot recipes. Dudley, Tom, Bill McKenzie, who gave me a wonderful gift this morning, and I will have the opportunity to share that with you in a little while. Happy sunny Wednesday, Renee. It is sunny and it is warm out there. Good morning, Candace. Nancy, always great to see you. Kathleen, Joey, and Darlene. Here you are. Oh my God, there's more of you. Good heavens. Holly, Christy, Karen, Lydia, Julie, Kathy, Lisa, Stacy, Sean, Marge. You guys are so awesome to spend time with me this morning. And every morning that I get a chance to see you. This is really wonderful. So let's get started with some news and headlines. Yesterday, we talked briefly about the state of Nayarit. And yesterday, I mentioned to you that the governor of Nayarit made a comment about dry law in his state. Well, this morning, we learned that dry law is actually over in several states of Mexico, including the state of Nayarit. We also know that the states of Sinaloa and Veracruz have discontinued their dry law. So if you want to go celebrate with a cocktail, you can now do it legally if you were getting your alcohol in a neighboring state or a neighboring place. Well, now you don't have to do that. You can get your alcohol right where you are. We also learned today that the number of bus routes leaving and arriving in Puerto Vallarta is increasing with phase zero approaching. It is good to know that bus traffic is starting to increase coming in and out of the city. I cannot speak about whatever safety guidelines that are being put into place by the bus companies, but I can only imagine that both the terminals and the bus companies are doing their best to keep safe distance within the buses and that everybody is given enough cleaning gel and so forth so that the spread of the virus can be controlled. We also learned that several municipalities in Jalisco are starting to do driving movie theater operations in parking lots. This is happening in Guadalajara and Colima because, as we know, movie theaters are not going to be opening anytime soon. How this works is a mystery to me. I can't fail to realize that going to the movies now means enjoying this experience in which you have state-of-the-art sound and you're in comfortable seats and whatnot. So I cannot imagine what kind of solutions the movie theaters are putting into place so that when you go and see a movie at a drive-in, um, it sounds as good as it does in a movie theater. I've never been to a drive-in theater, so I don't know what the experience used to be like when they were very popular. I've seen them depicted in movies in which they show you a tiny little speaker located next to your vehicle so that you would be hearing the movie from that tiny little speaker. Or I wonder if they use the FM radio um, frequencies so that you can tune into the movie on your radio. I don't know how that works. If somebody has experience with movie theaters that are of the driving nature, I'd love to get a comment on that because again, this is news to me. We also found out about this bulletin that was released by Riviera Nayarit, where they are promoting eight relaxation and well-being experiences in the state of Nayarit. And I wanted to talk about this because this might be a source of inspiration for some of us. Of course, the press bulletin, the press release does not say you can come tomorrow, you can come the week after tomorrow. What this press release is doing effectively is putting the idea in the minds of clients and prospective visitors. And this is something that we can and probably should start doing in our own businesses. Whereas at this point, it's unclear for some of us when we can start operating our businesses or not. It never hurts to reach out to Facebook and reach out to our fan base and say, hey, do you remember what that ice cream used to taste like at Licks? Do you remember what it was like to sit down and have a cup of coffee at our restaurant? Do you remember our special of the week? Well, we don't know when you're going to get it back, but at least we want you to know that we're looking forward to seeing you. This is a positive message that we can all be sending to our clients. And I think what Riviera Nayarit is doing here is simply keeping the idea alive in the minds of their fan base. So keep it in mind. Maybe this is something that you can do for yourself. Now, we know for a fact, let me come back to the big screen. We know for a fact that there are certain individuals in the world that carry the coronavirus and remain without symptoms. And we know for a fact that these people, while they may not seem to be sick, they have the ability to spread the disease. So this is what we know about asymptomatic cases, or that's what we call them. So you may be wondering a little bit about what goes on if people go out and about and are, unbeknownst to themselves, without knowing, without knowing, they might be spreading the disease. So yesterday, PBS NewsHour had a nice article on this whole issue of being asymptomatic and what do we do about it? How should we react to it? How can we know what's going on, or what's the deal? And of course, we know that we won't know whether we carry the virus or not until we get tested. So this is an important read, I think, for those of us that that have those kinds of concerns. And speaking of concerns, I want to, before we go into the next set of news, I want to talk a little bit about anxiety and the anxiety that some of us are experiencing about related to the idea of going out. We've been indoors for over 50 days and just going out for the bare necessities. And all of a sudden, we are challenged by the fact that we're going to be able to go out, and increasingly so. Yeah, I'm not saying that we're going to go back to business as usual, but some of us may be experiencing some anxiety, when the door gets open for us to step out. All of a sudden we'll be like, can we? Should we? How do we feel about this? I know personally, I have friends that have politely declined an invitation to go out and grab a bite. I have other friends that have, chastised me for even thinking about it. And I have other friends that feel perfectly comfortable with the idea at this stage of the game. So, regardless of where you are, regardless of where we are, it's important to remember that anxiety and uncertainty is part of the new normal, and you shouldn't feel bad about it. And I wanted to say that because the next two articles that I have to share with you deal precisely with this particular issue. This first one comes from eater.com, and it talks about whether it is safe to eat at restaurants yet. And it addresses very simple questions such as, are you better off in a large restaurant or in a small restaurant? Are you better off in a restaurant that has a lot of ventilation or not? Are you better off in large groups or small groups? The fact is that sooner or later, our own nature is going to want us to go out and have, you know, enjoy pleasant times with our friends. So this is an important article to read, I think. I glanced at it, but I'm going to be doing a lot of reading this afternoon of both this article and this other great article that I found on Vox, my favorite Vox. I know I always praise Vox, but they have such great content. And this has to do with how to fight fear and anxiety when quarantine ends. And this is exactly what we're talking about. We all have our own coping mechanisms. We all know exactly what we need to do to be able to deal with this anxiety. And by sharing these articles, I just hope that these are helpful in clearing a path for you that feels safe, that feels comfortable as you start moving out and about. I don't see any specific questions just yet. Um, Clearly, Paul has been to a drive-in, and well, of course, Paul has been to a drive-in. He's my older sister. Cheryl tells us that they use radio frequency. Well, that's a consolation because at least I have a good sound in my car. Um, Love the driving movies in the 70s and 80s. I really have to experience this. This will be a new experience for me. Um, Christy says funky old boxes you hung on the window that had lousy sound but always fun. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. Michal says that she loves driving theaters. Um, well, there's a bunch of you that are fans of these, so I can't imagine um, where we could have one here in Puerto Vallarta. But it'll be wonderful um, to see how this gets resolved locally. I mean, there are parking lots outside of the Cinepolis in Pitillal, so they could probably do it there. That would be fun. The sound of the boy in the driving movies doesn't matter if your boyfriend takes you out to one. I have to agree with that. Of course, I don't have a boyfriend, so if anybody wants to take me out to the drive-in, I will be I will be more than happy to oblige. Unbeknownst to themselves, again, sometimes my translating machine is not all with me, Tony. In certain mornings, it doesn't kick in as gracefully as I wish it did. Um, Gay PV Magazine has a page for fundraisers, promotions, and reopenings. Oh, this is good to know. I'm going to look for their digital edition and I'm going to share um, that with everybody if I find something important. Oh, thank you, Gail. Gail has kindly shared this page with all of us. Thank you so very much. Um, Break it down easily, mouth, nose, eyes. That's how it enters. This is great suggestions. And Lee used to go to the driving theaters. I'm glad that you guys got around. I lived in Mexico City when I was a teenager, and I'm sure that there were driving theaters. I never got to experience them. Then I moved to Boston for close to 2 decades. Excuse me. And again, it hasn't been in my path. So if we end up getting driving theaters, I will definitely go because whereas I enjoy watching movies at home quite a bit, there's certain films that just look spectacular in the big screen. So moving on to some leisurely stuff, I always want to have something to smile about or feel good about or something that is not related to COVID-19. I am not particularly religious, but imagine that you are a small um, a priest in a small parish and you're in the middle of recording your mass because of course you cannot attend mass right now, and all of a sudden your phone rings and it is the Pope calling. Well, this happened here in the state of Jalisco. It turns out that a priest in a small town called Jalostotitlan was recording his mass, And Pope Francisco, who has this habit of just calling, people, priests around the world, happened to call. And it's really endearing to watch the video because you watch the priest, he's doing his thing, and all of a sudden his phone rings and he whips it out while he's recording mass, which is funny enough. And then he goes into the back room, and I don't know how to say monaguillo in English, the guy, the young men that help the priests. All of a sudden you can see him smiling because he realizes that it is the Pope on the phone. Again, regardless of where your religious beliefs stand, I thought it was something endearing to share. Um, then for those of us or those of you that are considering that are doing business online, whether you have your website or whether you sell things online, I have two websites that are devoted to the topic of Facebook, allowing you now to design and build shopping experiences both on Facebook and also on Instagram. These, from what I've read so far, are linked to your website. So if you're selling things through your website, you can now set up a shop in your Facebook business page. This might be helpful to some of you, which is why I chose to share these two articles. One comes from Engadget, which is a technology website that I follow regularly. And there's also another one coming from Vox that also dives into this topic. So feel free to take a look at these if this applies to the kind of business that you do. If you're a reader, I realize that the prequel for Hunger Games is out. It is called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the prequel by Suzanne Collins, who gave us The Hunger Games. And this takes place apparently quite a few years before Katniss Everdeen does her thing. And it centers around the story of Snow, who was the evil guy, the future president of Panem. And I know that this is something that I'm definitely going to want to put in my Kindle because I'm a huge fan. I'll probably go back and watch the movies again because I found them extremely compelling. Now, this next bit, I was going to save I was going to save this for Sunday, Monday, but I can't resist because it's probably going to get to your eyes before then. Apparently, Nassau County Executive Laura Curran um, found herself discussing the reopening of a tennis court and inadvertently found herself giving the following advice: you can kick other people's balls, but you cannot touch them. So, um, again, I would play it, but YouTube is going to get on my case if I do. But make sure to watch this. It is a really funny thing. It made me laugh, and I hope it'll make you laugh. If you feel inclined to go out and touch anybody's balls, consider kicking them instead. And my last funny, well, not funny, but my last leisurely headline comes from Vogue magazine. This is an essay written by Matthew Lopez. Matthew Lopez is a very successful screenplay writer. He has a play on Broadway right now, well, had, called The Inheritance, which is a retelling of a very famous book whose name escapes me. Howard's End. No, it's not Howard's End. The Inheritance is a retelling of a of I'm not gonna make it up because I can't remember. His play is very successful. It lasts like 6.5 hours. I think you have to sit for the first half, and then for the second half, our friend Alain Perrault wouldn't know about this because he probably has watched it when he was in New York recently. Anyhow, Matthew Lopez writes about whether theater will come back and what it will look like. And the article is really an account of what was going on in his life when the pandemic set in and when theaters had to close down in New York City. Again, if you're a fan of theater, this might be an interesting read for you. And and these are the headlines that I put together for you today. I'm going to take a quick look at whether you have any questions or comments. There's a lot of comments about the drive-ins, again, I hope that this is something that we can all take advantage of. How are you feeling in terms of going out to restaurants? I'd be curious to read your comments either now or in the future, as to whether you're getting to that sense of comfort that allows us to go out. Um, we've said this before, and I'll say it again. I personally feel it's important to take care of one another when it comes to safety and health, but it is also important to take care of our businesses and help out whenever we can, um, and start doing our share to rebuild our economy. Of course, doing so safely. And I certainly hope that you're making decisions that are good for you and that will help you move forward. Last but certainly not least, I want to share an unexpected, odd, and wonderful experience I had. I found myself having a conversation on Facebook with Bill McKenzie, who is someone who has been watching our shows, and he thanked me for the fact that we're putting them together. But it was really funny. He shared with me this photograph of his television where he has YouTube attached to it, and there it is in a big screen, a screenshot of the broadcast that we shared yesterday, and it was humbling to watch it. It was sweet to watch it. Of course, I watch other people's streams on my TV set, but all of a sudden, the thought of my face all big in other people's television is something that I definitely have to get used to. But I'm always grateful for having the opportunity to share some knowledge and some inspiration with all of you. And I'm always grateful to receive your comments and your ideas and your suggestions as well. Um, I see one comment about restaurants, and I see several. Bill tells me that we will not be eating out at the present time. That makes perfect sense to me. Um, we are going to search for dining out opportunities. That makes sense to me. As long as the restaurant isn't crowded, that makes sense to me too. See, all of these are personal decisions, and there are no good or bad decisions. It's simply where we find our balance between what we can and should, or we cannot and should not do. I see that, yes, I will have my own show. Oh, that's Mandy. Hello, Mandy. How are things going with preparations for Virtual Pride? Yes, we're having a good time putting together my part of the enormous celebration. And of course, this Saturday, there's going to be that other fundraiser for nighttime workers. We should all watch and enjoy all these all these shows and all these great opportunities to help people around us. Um, we get updates on cases and mortality rates, but not much info on hospital capacity. Actually, Sarah, from what I hear, hospital capacity is fine in the region. I have not heard otherwise. I am sure that if this was not the case, we would hear from somebody that was in the know, like Pam Thompson, and um, she would confirm that. You have a beautiful place, Bill. Of course, we like that. And I like the photographs of your late mother and your partner's late mother. I like those photographs very much. Um, Off topic, but Lydia went to Mega Soriana and was a little taken aback that 5 days ago I was yelled twice, alcohol wipes available, cart wipe down, and temperature check. Yesterday, code yield, no temperature, no wipes, no toe carry. Okay. Um, Again, okay, that was a big comment on going to supermarket and whether they are consistently looking after us or not. Um, I don't know what to tell you, Lydia. I go out making sure that I can take care of myself first and foremost, not necessarily expecting that agencies or other people will have that responsibility for me. I think I appreciate when I go to supermarkets and they hand me things or they do things that will help me stay healthy. But I always make sure that I carry my own gel and I carry my wipes and I carry everything that I need to feel safe. My suggestion would be that you do this as well. Mihal tells me that they went for a late lunch at Page in the Sun yesterday. sat outside, and it was heavenly. If this is Page in the Sun by Plaza Lázaro Cárdenas, that sounds like a wonderful place to sit. I would enjoy that very much. I just got a little ding ding on my Facebook chat from Richard Sarking of Riviera Nayarit that tells me that his Skype tests went well. So I'm going to hope to set him up for tomorrow or the day after. I also am working on another wonderful special guest before the week is over, because she is going to participate in a wonderful multicast with award-winning actors and actresses of a very important play. And I'm not going to give you any tips because I want this to be a surprise. So there's always something going on here, and I'm always happy to share contact with important people that are doing things. Something else that I want to tell you, I didn't prepare it for the screen, but I want to tell you that I heard from Georgia Darasori at Casa Karma. They have changed their food menu, so I'm going to add that to the show notes today, so that if you want to consider having a nice meal in her space, she has a wonderful, wonderful space right next to the ocean. If you haven't visited Casa Karma, it is in Conchas Chinas, Lower Conchas Chinas. So it is a beautiful place, and on a sunny day like today, I can only imagine it would be quite comfortable to be there. And speaking of sunny, of course, it's nice, clear blue skies outside. It's 84 degrees or 29 Celsius, 84 Fahrenheit. Humidity is up to 44%, and we can expect that to continue increasing as we start heading into the summer. We know that the humid days are coming up, and how we're going to feel about going all over the place with those face masks on is a mystery to me. But hopefully, restrictions will have lifted enough so that once we get to the very humid months, we don't have to wear the face masks all the time. But in the meantime, remember, face masks are mandatory. Don't go out without your face mask. And that's all we have for today. As always, I thank you and tremendously for spending time with me and my kitty cat, who's always down here. And I always welcome your comments, your suggestions, and any ideas you may have, so that we can continue to have topics that are important to all of us, that help us move forward, that help us stay creative and well balanced, not too anxious, and certainly happy. I hope you have a great Wednesday, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good day.